If you had to pick one, who would you pick and why?
Brandon Aiyuk, hands down. It's not even close. Right now, if we just want to focus on Chase before we get to Brandon, Chase Young is seeing what he has right now. All right. He's seen this type of defense. Washington Commanders are a struggling franchise, but the number one thing that they do get right and they try to pour all of their assets into is their defense, particularly their defensive front. Before Chase Young got to the Washington Commanders, there were already 4 first-round picks on that defensive line, okay, with great interior pass rushers and run stoppers in Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. They just picked up Philandro Mathis. They already had Montez Sweat, who came in before Chase Young, but came in later in the first round and thoroughly outplayed Chase Young. All right. One of the things about Chase is he's a great run fit. He has pedigree with great schools and great backgrounds, but there's a reason why he's here. And some of the things that you can see on film is effort, chasing down quarterbacks and chasing down runners, ball carriers, and actually just giving a championship effort. And maybe that's something that we thought could lift his play here with not actually being the tip of the spear or being the number one guy as he was asked to in Washington. But for what Chase Young is giving us right now, he's a depth piece. He's a solid starter, and he's nowhere near the conversation of being able to pour real money into him, right? On top of the fact that he's a pass rusher. You can find that anywhere. Yeah. This is a position that readily is laying around after free agency in the doldrums of the season and all season. Most of the holdovers year after year after year are pass rushers who are looking for a payday that teams are not willing to put all of their money and their time into, and they pick them up for 1-year deals, 2-year deals, or prove it deals. Okay.
Look at Chase Young right now. That's what he is.
Yes. This is it. Yeah. It's not going to, there's not going to
be another Chase Young next year.
There you go. There's not going to be some type of resurgence. But with Brandon Aiyuk is something that you cannot find, okay? He's trending towards being an elite receiver and being a number one receiver. One of the things about Brandon Aiyuk is that right off the gate, he gave us immediate production. He gives us a true deep threat and somebody who runs the full complement of the entire route tree on an elite level, okay? And he's just getting started. He hasn't even scratched the surface of where he can be as a true receiver.
He can do everything.
Everything. On top of
it, he can go over the middle. He can get yards after the catch. He can block.
There you go. Let's stick with the last and the first attributes that you gave. He's tough and he can block. That's something in this offense that's worth its weight in gold. And it's something also that's going to get better. Brandon Aiyuk, to play around with Brandon Aiyuk and his production when it's time to pay him, you would almost lose him just off the disrespect level because there are other teams that really want Brandon Aiyuk, okay?
Imagine on the Chiefs or the Bills.
Imagine what Houston could do with Brandon Aiyuk. Okay, and they're in the market. There's a lot of teams that are looking for a guy to help.
Hadn't thought of that.
Imagine the Ravens with Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, yeah, but like CJ Stroud and Brandon Aiyuk, that would be a huge problem for the league.
That would be a huge problem for the league. Okay,
because you know what D'Amico would do? He would just give Brandon Aiyuk like 180 targets a year, which he deserves. And his production would go through the roof, and he'd have a quarterback who could get him the ball way down the field. Be crazy.
Yeah, I agree, Grant. So right now, Chase Young, there's a lot of teams that probably wanted him, and they probably still do want him. There's probably teams out there who are or fans that are listening to what I'm saying, and it's like, man, whatever, sign me up. You can never have too many big blue chip defensive end pass rushers. I get it, but at the end of the day, man, this is a passing league. Okay. And if you got one of those guys that cannot be guarded by almost 90% of corners that are sleeping up today, that's a real weapon. And that's something also that you don't want to necessarily get into as far as injuries concerned. Pass rushers get injured more than receivers do. They just do. They have a much more violent task to do on the football field, and they wear faster. I would stay on Brandon Aiyuk. And then also it would kind of be a slap in the face to the front office. I mean, are we really going to prioritize paying somebody else's second overall pick over paying our guy? Like, that's another thing too, where it just in a sense where even if we bulk, right, in a sense of trying to pay both of them, Brandon, now you could get pissed off and be like, no, wait a minute. This guy's been here for a cup of coffee and a sweet roll. You guys drafted me. What is going on right now? So
right.
Yeah, I don't even think the conversation is close, to be honest with you. It's Brandon Aiyuk all day for me.
Well, let's talk. I mean, we don't need to convince people that Brandon Aiyuk's an excellent player who's on the rise. I think what we need to do is talk a little bit about Chase Young. I mean, he's a big name. He was a second pick in the draft. He had 5 sacks when he came to the Niners. I mean, like the last couple games, he hasn't done that much for the 49ers. And it seems like if he's going to require a multi-year contract, it's not going to be that hard to replace his 26 snaps, his 36 snaps. He's playing 50% of the snaps. He had no sacks last week, no tackles, no sacks the week before that, no tackles.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the tackles, right? Like he's got 9 tackles on the year. I understand that he's got 40 hurries and 55 pressures with 7 hits. That's cool. And that's something that you can look at in a box. But to be honest with you, that's a package. That's not a complete player. You know what I mean?
18 tackles in 11 games this year, man. 18, according to Pro Football. 18 tackles?
Yeah.
As a D lineman? Whoa.
Yeah. So at this stage of the game,
action. Yeah.
Yeah, he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, but he's got effort issues. I mean, if anybody wants to go back to the mic'd up that the Niners just dropped, you clearly see Coach Kasarik looking Chase dead in his face and telling him, you need to chase the quarterback and give more effort the entire time. So, it's good. He's making a difference on a very good team, and it's putting us over the hump for what we need in the situation. But I don't want the money's got to make sense. I would love to have Chase Young on our team to see him get better and play under Nick and all those good things. But it's got to make sense fiscally. I don't want to be sitting here wondering why we're not paying our best guys because we want to keep Chase.
I mean, Cleveland Farrell has more tackles than Chase.
Yeah.
Like Javon Kinlaw has almost as many tackles as Chase. And Kinlaw hasn't been playing.
He's a package guy. Yeah. He's a backup package guy.
Mm-hmm. Cleveland Farrell has 20 tackles. Freaking Chase has 18. Cleveland Farrell. So, yeah, I mean, I there would be you could give him an offer, but I wouldn't give Chase that much. To me, he seems extremely replaceable. Is he a better pass rusher than Cleveland Farrell? Yes.
Yeah.
But is he worth $15 million? Like, no.
Yeah.
He's not worth that much.
And to be honest with you, it's really not the pass rush. It's the motor, it's the effort, and it's run defense. To be honest with you, like those are like the biggest 3 things that if I had to pick out of like what don't you like, what's not worth the money. It's like the effort. It's like he doesn't give championship effort at all times. You know what I'm saying? His run defense is not stout.
And the Niners were thinking like, hey, we're a championship team. He's going to come here and clean up his act. It was just Washington. He wasn't motivated in Washington. Well, or this is
just what you got. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you got.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So what I want to do is read what Tom Jensen had to say about this. Tom Jensen writes for my site, si.com/NFL/49ers, all 49ers, does a great job. And he addressed this yesterday. So here's what he wrote. Aiyuk is central to the offense, and given his chemistry with Purdy, it would not make sense to let him go. In theory, Aiyuk can be dealt for a first rounder, and then the Niners can draft his replacement. Great talent is readily available in the draft. The NFL has had mixed results with that, though. Minnesota swapped out Stephon Diggs for Justin Jefferson, but Kansas City replaced Tyreek Hill with Rashee Rice. Young is a tougher call with a projected market value of $13.6 million per year. That's a good number to know. The defensive line proved their dominance with a 61.5% pressure rate against Philadelphia. The Niners front office is proven somewhat ineffective at drafting pass rushers, adding to the argument to keep Young. That's a good point. I mean, case in point, Drake Jackson. Despite their spotty D-line draft history, if the Niners let Young and Randy Gregory go, a first-rounder is more likely to be spent at edge. The clear team need, though, is to invest in long overdue high draft picks on the right side of the offensive line. That's a good point. Cap guru Jason Hurley of 49ersCap.com says both Aiyuk and Young can be re-signed without having to move Deebo Samuel. However, that would require Aiyuk and Young to accept long-term backloaded deals of up to 5 years with incentives. The 49ers would also need to restructure deals to make it work, starting with Samuel. Hurley expects the Niners to carry up to $37 million in cap room into 2024, plus another $4 to $6 million in potential unmet incentives. He says restructuring Samuel, Eric Armstead, Dre Greenlaw, and Trevarius Ward can save another $43 million if executed before the new league year in mid-July. So it can be done, and it'd be smarter than drafting another edge rusher. First of all, shout out Tom Jensen. That was great.
Hey, man, Tom is class personified, bro.
Yeah, let's talk about, actually, I want to talk about Tom. Before I talk about what Tom Jensen said, I want to talk about Tom Jensen.
Yeah.
So, you don't know who Tom Jensen is. If you read my site, you do. But Tom Jensen was just a guy who started emailing me. And he was so on point. I almost wondered if he was like working for the teams. And he's so generous. He was basically saying, Grant, I like what you're doing. I want to help you. I know more about the draft than you. I know more about a lot of football than you. Take my ideas and use them as your own. He was that generous. And for a while I did. He made my writing more informed. And I wasn't giving him credit because it was like sort of my secret source in my emails. After a while, I was like, this feels wrong. So I told Tom, I was like, Tom, man, you should write for me. What do you say? Like being actual, like, can I publish you? And then instead of him just sending me email, he would have emails to me before the end of before the final whistle. Like, here's what you should say. And like, man, why don't you just write for me? So now he's one of my writers, and he's going to be starting his YouTube channel soon. And he's just a super generous guy that no one knows. And I think it'd be nice to give him some props. He's going to be on Coach's channel. He's going to be on my channel. And again, there's a lot of people who are content creators, a lot of people who want to analyze the 49ers and profit off of 49ers analysis. And you can kind of tell people who consume all of this, people who have original analysis and people who don't. People who have original analysis and regurgitators. He is not a regurgitator. I'll tell you about Tom Jensen. He is not a regurgitator. So get to know him, get to read him. Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be your friend.
Yeah, if I may, just to add a little bit on top of that, Tom has been an amazing friend, resource, mentor that has helped me navigate throughout this entire fan base, and especially in the content creation field. And he puts out some of the greatest perspectives, original content, especially by way of his articles. And we're here to elevate him because we think that he's an amazing addition to what the fans need to hear about the Niners. It'll be a great, original, fresh perspective. And quite frankly, we're tired of hearing Tom's takes all over YouTube. It's time for Tom to put his name behind his takes. So
because
that's
the thing about Tom is like the people who really know and who are really digging and find his stuff realize it's gold right away. Yeah. All of a sudden you stumbled onto a treasure trove of analysis you can't find anywhere else. That maybe not that many people are aware of. And all of a sudden just reading him makes you sound smarter. Yeah. And it's like, so it's time for Tom. He's like the Wizard of Oz.
It's time, man. It's Tom's time.
He's like, come from out from behind the curtain, man. So it's time for you to be front center on the stage. So anyway, what he said in his article is that smarter to sign Chase Young than to draft an edge rusher in round 1. I agree. But I think option B would be to do neither. Let Chase, don't give him 13.6. I would not give Chase Young $13.6 million. No, let him go and get the next Chase Young, as you said, the next edge rusher who is kind of a disappointment for his team and, is just hanging around, or he's 32 and he's just hanging around. You can find these guys, 1-year rentals.
They're laying around.
They want to play for the Niners? Yeah, they do want to play for the Niners.
Yeah.
And that's the super chat. No, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add that you said at the very end is that let's make no mistake about it. Let's not get tilted. Chase is playing with the Niners, not the other way around. Yeah. Okay. He's happy and thrilled to be here, right? Him being here is a revitalization of his career. Okay. Yeah. Like he could be tucked away on a no-win playoff team right now and nobody would care. It's the truth.